Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back once again to Gran Turismo 7. It's that time of the month. No, not my period. It's time for me to do my monthly rundown of what I want to see from the next update, which would be 1.36 and into the near future. Then I'll take your suggestions down below after this video and essentially make that into a community wish list to see what we all wish and want for the future of Gran Turismo 7. Now, I think we all know 1.35 was an absolutely terrible update that did nothing but absolutely kill off the game even more. As you can see, they brought back Music Rally and a handful of really quick and short events, and to be honest, the whole update realistically lasted for an hour and a half total in terms of actual game time. And bringing back Music Rally, I don't think more than a handful of people really asked for that. So this series has been running on the channel for almost a year at this point, and since then we've had changes that we've asked for, like the likes of, you know, selling cars finally coming to the game, full PSVR 2 support, and even buyable engine swaps and extreme tuning parts finally get unlocked and be kind of removed from the whole RNG part of the game, or luck based, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to start off with my first wish, and this is one that's going to continue on and on and on until they finally do it, which is give us usable events or proper events. Look, we've got almost a roster of 500 cars within this game, and you can guarantee, in fact I guess most of us can realistically guarantee, that there's around about 20 to 30 cars at most that you probably use on a regular basis. Apart from that, there's probably nothing else you realistically use. I know for me, I've had cars in the game since day one that I've just never gone ahead and touched because there's no real reason to use them. I've had a million, credit cars that I've purchased in game, and again I've just never used them because there's no real place to use them. And this was something that I kind of brought up alongside the Aston Martin Valkyrie when I did its review, was the fact that yes, it's an amazing car, but it costs 4 million credits and it has nothing realistically catered towards it other than, a few quick sprint races that in total you can beat all of them in around about 30 minutes. It's just not enough content to money put out in terms of buying these cars. Some of them you put the money out and you never ever use them. A lot of the classics and legendary cars we're putting out upwards of 20 million credits and then never realistically getting a chance to use them because nothing properly caters to them. I guess on one hand I could turn around and say, alright, custom races, but then again there's the problem with the entire GT7 economy, which I'll touch on a little bit later on. So definitely the first point is more usable events, more worthwhile events. Stop putting these crappy little sprint races in, because in all honesty I will come back to an update, be quite excited when I see some of the I guess event titles like the 800s and such, and then by the time I'm done I'm left with another sour taste in my mouth once again as Polyphony decide to shoot me in the face with it. And yeah, I'm basically just left there with around about an hour and a half to 2 hours total in terms of the events, and majority of that is taken up by a single event, which sometimes runs upwards of 20 minutes to 25 minutes. Apart from that, the other events are just absolutely throwaways that you're just doing a little bit of a checklist, and it's not good enough. Recently I've been playing a lot of classic Gran Turismo games and going back and realizing just how catered to majority of the cars that are in those games these events actually are. It really does leave a poor taste in my mouth for GT7. Point number 2, the economy imbalance. I'm not necessarily saying the economy is absolutely terrible. Let's be quite honest. 800,000 credits, every 30 minutes or so really isn't that bad, but there's just not enough of it. We've been running the same few grinding events for well over a year at this point, or let's say 4 or 5 at most in terms of the events for, over a year. And it's just very worn out. It's very tired at this point. And whilst, yes, we can make as many different builds as we realistically want for it, again it just burns out, and most of the 700 pp builds and such only cater to a single event, which means majority of the time you'll be doing Le Mans if you want to kind of build road cars, and if you want to build race cars you're looking at Spa or Sardinia, with a few glitch builds in between that usually do very well at Tokyo. Apart from that, we're left with realistically nothing. Now if you then go ahead and set up the exact same event within custom races, there's a big problem. You will get around about 10 10% of what you've actually, you know, I guess that original event when you set it up yourself with the exact same parameters and such. And it's just not good enough. You know, it's a quick answer to the event problem as well, that if you rebalance the economy for the likes of custom races, we won't have to nag you for events. We then can make our own. It's going to be in line with, you know, your own, I guess, pay way or whatever you want to put in place, or how you run the economy in those events. And yeah, it really would give us more options and more accessibility and more reasons to use this almost 500 card roster. So we definitely need the entire economy, you know, rebalanced and kind of made better overall, because it's not a great show. And I think at this point you can't realistically blame microtransactions. I know nobody that has ever actually bought them, and they're so overpriced and pointless that I'd rather just do an hour and maybe an hour and 20 minutes or so of actually playing the game rather than spending £17 for 2 million credits. It's just absolutely bizarre. It makes no sense. So at this point, I can't blame the microtransactions. All I can blame is that Polyphony just don't know how to sort an economy. And if we have a look at some of the other events as well, you'll have events that take upwards of 20 to, let's say, I don't know, 30 minutes max. And again, they won't pay out as much as other 30-minute or so events. It's just absolutely bizarre. If we have a look at the Road Atlanta event compared to Le Mans, same time, but around about, you know, half of the credits for it. It's just stupid, to be quite honest. So the next point I'm going to make is actually down to the car customization. Whilst we don't realistically have official parts within the game, a big kind of talking point when the game was, you know, in its kind of launch phase was the fact that you could customize these cars with body kits, engine swaps, and so on and so forth. However, you know, it's, for me personally, quite frustrating if we absolutely fully tuning or race tuning a road car and then jumping in and seeing the bog standard interior. This is something that has just really bothered me since someone mentioned it around about 6 months back. And every time I just jump in these highly tuned cars that I've got, you know, tuned upwards of 800 pp for a Skyline or something like that, and the interior is still standard and weight reduction doesn't realistically strip out the interior, I know it would take a lot of work, but I definitely think it would just add to the authenticity of actually tuning these cars. So that's just a little side point for me, but it's something that I definitely think is critical. Next up, I want a bit of a PSVR 2 update. Whilst it's been implemented since February, it's just not been touched since then. If you look at the UI in the menu whilst you're in PSVR 2, you're at a massive disadvantage to someone that isn't running it. You know, if you have a look at the leaderboards, the lap times and such, you can't realistically track all that while you're in VR. And yes, it might clutter the screen more, but if you give us a customizable option for our VR UI, then this would certainly improve the game and certainly make VR more worthwhile, especially if you want to run it in the likes of sport mode and such. So this is certainly something that a lot of people quite honestly agree with as well, that use VR, that it definitely needs a bit of an update to its UI and just give us more customizable options for it so we can set it out how we wish. Here's another little one. I want a clean race bonus indicator. Now, what I mean by this is the fact that you will go into some of these events and you will think you've actually gotten a clean race, but it turns out you slightly, you know, slid past someone on lap 5 of like, I don't know, 20 laps or whatever, and basically you lost your clean race bonus, so you can kiss that goodbye. That's just a little indicator, just kind of pointing out that yes, you've still got it, or no, you haven't, would definitely benefit, you know, I guess most players, you know, just getting the idea of what kind of credits we're going to be earning and such, you know, what causes us to lose the clean race bonus. At times it feels very, very randomized, whereas you can be absolutely as dirty as you want in some events. In others, you'll get massively penalized for it, and you know, you'll lose your clean race bonus for literally next to nothing. It's rather quite bizarre. So just a slight indicator is definitely something, you know, that I'd love to see in game, as well as an SR and DR indicator of going up and down. If you remember from GT Sport, this was a thing where, you know, your actions really kind of got shown to you on screen. You'd have your SR up or your SR down, depending on penalties and, you know, how you drove overall, and it'd kind of go throughout the race with you, so you could sort of keep track of how you're doing in terms of your progress. So, you know, again, clean race bonus for single player and a SR and DR indicator for sport mode and multiplayer would be absolutely fantastic. So this is one that doesn't necessarily relate to Gran Turismo 7 itself, but at the same time it kind of does. So I think we all saw a bit of a surprising situation, if you've been on Twitter recently, that Polyphony or Gran Turismo actually responded to someone's complaint about the servers over round 5 of the TGR Cup, and them being absolutely a waste of space within Europe. They then kind of, admitted that they're looking into it, that they're going to, keep people updated, which proves that they can communicate with their fan base, and it's something that Polyphony are notorious for not doing. They never released a realistic roadmap apart from after everybody started, giving them complaints and the backlash hit them in the early days of GT7, and since then it's almost been radio silence and completely ignoring any faults with this game. If they can do it with one of their GT World Series drivers, why can they not do it with just every regular day folk like most other companies do on social media, to just keep the players on track and, I guess keep them invested in this game so they know what direction this game is heading. It's clearly obvious that they can read complaints and they must be seeing what people are complaining about at this point in the game's life cycle. So why not communicate with your fan base a bit better and, keep them informed on what you are working on in terms of Gran Turismo 7's future, if there is a future for this game. So there we have it. That is my personal wish list for update 1.36 and beyond, and certainly that bit at the end is something that needed addressing for the longest time, and it doesn't seem like I'm the only one that really thinks that Polyphony need to step up their game, stop leaving their fan base in the dark, and just give us an idea of where they want to go with GT7 so we can then make our own mind up about if we want to stick around in the future for this product. So that's going to be it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave your suggestions down below, as I will be doing that community wish list over the coming days, as it's always interesting to see what other points you guys can bring up and what you realistically think this game needs to go forward and become a better product as a whole. Now, one thing I'm going to say, don't include cars, mainly because that is just a whole different ball game. That comes down to licensing and all that good stuff. We can all wish for a million Conan's eggs, or if I hear a BMW M5 for the millionth time, I might just go absolutely insane. But look, cars are a very specific issue. Again, it all comes down to licensing and what they can and can't do. So don't touch on cars, touch on things or features or whatever you want to see within GT7 in the coming future update and into the actual future of this game. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget, if you do want to get involved, join my Discord and such, and I will see you later on, guys. Take care. Peace.